Thanks for joining me this evening for this webinar. Just a few heads up. At the end, there's going to be a special offer for those of you who stick around because I tend to be very long-winded, but it'll be worth it. And also, this is for the newbies, and also maybe if you're not so new, possibly for you. I recently had the experience of reconnecting with some people that I used to bid against and everything, and I was really surprised that a few have actually broken down and bought my book and were kind of blown away. And it was just like, you're kidding me. It's like, I thought you knew this stuff. There's this thing that storage auctions are common sense, and so's telling the truth. How often does that happen? The reality is, if you're going to be in this business, you need to be prepared. You need to have a game plan, and your expectations should be in order. One of the biggest problems is there are many people who are watching the shows and thinking that that's how the business is. The business was not even like that when I was in it. And just for those of you who know, I've been out of the storage auction business since 2009. I got sick and decided to write a book. And fast forward to the day, here we are. Never knew it was going to be like this. I'm supposed to be working on a great American fiction novel right now, but the storage auction thing is just so crazy that it just snowballed into 3 books, the video camera, and the blogs. I mean, I'm grateful, and for those of you who watch the videos and who are here tonight, thanks. I appreciate the support, and we're going to have a good time. So without any further ado, let's let the webinar begin. Hey, this is Glendon Cameron, and welcome to the Introduction to the Storage Auction Business webinar for newbies. Alright, just to get to the gist of it, it's 2012, and many things have changed about the business since I was in it. One of the things that I had to contend with when I was in the storage auction business was I was an outsider, and I was a loud, vocal outsider, and I really jumped into the fray very early. That brought a lot of pain, which is not a bad thing, because that pain will actually help me teach you how to do things. And the first thing that you have to get through your head, the good old days are gone. They're over with, not coming back. The TV shows will not be canceled anytime soon, nor will the crowds be reduced. But to jump into that with the crowds, I want you to go to an auction and actually notice how many people truly bid. The lion's share of the people out there are spectators, looky-loos. They're just out there to say they went to an auction, and if you're a regular storage auction hound, you know that these people come and go. They come and go, they come and go. Because the fact of the matter is, one thing about the business that has not changed, will never change, is very hard work. You get hard work and people looking for a very easy way to come up, to make a lot of money fast, they lose interest very quickly. So that's one of the things that's actually going to help you. I know it sounds like a hindrance, but it's going to help you. And the first thing you need to do before you even buy your first unit is mentally prepare yourself for what's to come. Understand that you're going to make most of your money off regular run-of-the-mill stuff. For example, say you buy a unit for $500, maybe $750. It's a 10 by 20. There's a washer and dryer. If you're in New York City, no, there are no washer and dryers. Those are kind of rare in the city for some reason. But if you're somewhere else, you get a washer and dryer, a dining room set, a dinette, a sofa set, and 3 or 4 bedroom sets, and all of the smalls that would be in the house, and maybe a few grandma's collectibles. If you know what you're doing, you're going to make most of your money off of the regular run-of-the-mill stuff, and you're going to make a lot of money, because there's another truth. The lion's share of people that come out to auctions are not prepared to handle the big units. They can't do it. They're actually intimidated by these large units, which actually makes you the most money based on volume. I mean, seriously, go to an auction and just notice. You'll see 5 by 5, 5 by 10. And it's very important that you actually know the size of the unit. You'll see these units go for $300, $400, $500, $600. Then there's a 10 by 10, 10 by 15. Well, let's say a 10 by 15, 10 by 20, 10 by 30. And And this unit would go for maybe $200, $300 more, but it has twice or sometimes 3 times as much stuff. This is something that has not really changed. Most people buy based on what they can move. And if you're taking this webinar, that's a mentality that you need to rid yourself off. You're looking for opportunity, not an easy way to move stuff. Because if you watch Storage Wars, you hear Gerard and Brandy say, hey, this unit will fill up our shelves. This unit will fill up our shelves. In my store, I did not have shelves. I know that sounds crazy, right? But the deal is, because every week you get so many different things that if I had shelves, I would be locked into a certain buying mode. It's like, oh, I need to buy this stuff to fill my shelves, versus really recognizing the opportunity that's before me that can make me a lot of money. I've actually seen people pass up good units because it did not fit their store profile. Having a store profile in this business can be very limiting, because every week you have no idea what you're going to get. And that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it exciting. Things that people look at as a problem, I looked at as a challenge. And you got to understand, one of the biggest things about this business is you are solving problems. If you look at it as I'm solving a problem versus, oh man, this is a bitch, I don't really want to do this, you're going to be far ahead of the game. Now, in preparing yourself, in my book, I talk about things you need to do. And there are many people who bought the book and they're part of the groups. And I can tell folks who listened and I can tell folks who did not. One of the reasons I put that in there is what's more important than the buying the stuff is your infrastructure. Because for you auto guys, you're going to really get this. You've got this 600, 700, 800 horsepower engine, but your transmission can only handle 200 or 300 horsepower. You're wasting horsepower. And worse, when you really amp it up, you're going to burn out your transmission and you're not going anywhere. That is the state of many people's sales channels. They'll go out and get all this stuff and they're ready, and you hear it all the time. It's like, man, I still have this, I bought this, I bought this, I bought this, and I'm still having it. It's because your sales channels are not robust enough to move the stuff. That's the problem. It's not the stuff. Look, just say this. There are many times I bought a unit that I made marginal profit. Marginal profit would be, I spent anywhere from $300 to $600. I made a $200 or $300 profit. But it didn't hurt me. Why? Because I moved it very quickly. Every unit's not going to be a winner. It's just not. That's just the reality of the business. But if you buy a turkey, and to me those were turkey units, and you buy it and you move it within a week or two, it doesn't really hurt you because of the speed and the efficiency of your business. But when you're sitting on that stuff for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, and it's not something worth sitting on, you're actually losing money. You're losing money, you're losing time, because every time you have to move it, you have to put it somewhere, unless you just have this huge storage facility. And that is one of the things that kills people, because you would be better off, understand this, making sure that you're building a sales channel. And I'm like, you're going, hey Glendon, how do I build a sales channel when I have nothing to sell? Actually, you have a lot to sell. One of the things you should do, and I talk about this a lot, is if you want to get in the business, start selling right now. You've got crap in your house. I guarantee you, unless you're just a minimalist and you have very few things, you have crap in your house right now that you don't need, that you could sell to actually clean up your house, generate operating capital, and learn how to sell. Understand, in this business, money that's in motion, that's what you want. Because money that's just like, it's just there. Dead money. It's not moving. It stopped moving. You're dead in the water. So you want to keep your money moving. Now, some of you are going to have maybe 150, 200 bucks worth of items in the house. And some of you are going to have a few thousand, depending upon your lifestyle, your income level, and whether you're living in an apartment or you living in a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bedroom house. There are people out there who are living in that, and you've got money literally in rooms that you're not paying attention because you have like, well, this is in my house and I need to hold on to it. And you're like, why? Why do you need to hold on to it? Why? Ask yourself that question. But preparing that infrastructure is super, super important. You're going to have to crawl before you can walk, and you're going to have to walk before you can run. You have many people who are not even, they're still on their back in the baby stage. It's like, why, and they want to roll over and take off running, and it's not going to happen. My best students, and this may scare some of you off, it's taken them 2 years to get to a decent point. Some had jobs, some didn't have a lot of money, but 2 years of consistent effort, and now they're at a good point where their storage auction business is actually supporting them. It took 2 years. And if you know anything about business, that's a very quick time. Forget about the internet businesses that, so-and-so created such and such in their basement, and 6 months later they sold to Google and they made $20 million. It happens, but it's rare. It's very rare. So this is what I'm talking about, mentally preparing yourself. And also, for those of you who are going, wow, that's a long time, I want you to think about this. Look at the state of our country. Look what's happening. Do you see things getting any better anytime soon? Seriously, do you see that? So, yes, if you live long enough, and comes from Sally Mae Jones, one of my neighbors growing up, she's like, if you live long enough, you're going to get old. Also, if you live long enough, those 2 years are going to pass anyways. Are you going to be actively working on something where you're going to be in a better position at the end of those 2 years? Or are you just like waiting for that mythical, majestical moment where everything's just going to be like, bam, okay, we're straight? No, life doesn't work that way. Many, many overnight successes have worked anywhere from 5 to 20 years, then bam, they got put on and it's like, oh, they're overnight success. No, they've been working for many years. It's just you didn't know about it. That's how this business works. You will be working and working and working. Also, this is something else that kills many newbies. There is no plan for progression. There's none. There is no plan. There is no strategy. I saw the guys up on Storage Wars and Auction Hunters, and they make it look so easy. Going out, buy a few units, get some stuff, and then they're looking for the wow factor, and they're looking for the aha moment, and ignoring all of this other stuff in the unit that can make them money because they're, tunnel vision. It's just like, wow, I'm going to buy a unit, and 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 things out of that unit are going to make me my money. Let me give you some facts here. This whole notion of 80% of the units you buy, 90% of the units you buy are turkeys. That's TV talk. If I was that unsuccessful when I first started, I would not be talking to you now because I never would have stayed in the business. Once you learn what you're doing, once you build up your business acumen, you're going to be making money on 80 to 90% of the units you buy. That's when you get your shoulders up on your business. That's when you know what you're doing. This whole notion that most units are going to be a loser, I don't know where that comes from. That was not my reality, nor was that my experience. I've had bad weeks, and I've had bad months, but I didn't have bad quarters, and I didn't have bad years. So, overwhelmingly, the vast majority of the units I bought made me money. Let's talk about your business plan. This is something I really talk about a lot. Say you're sitting in your living room and you just have this idea that, hey, I'm going to get in the storage auction business, and you're like, where do I start? There's a ton of information on the internet. There's a lot of folks that's like, the obvious, buy low, sell high. At some point, the TV shows are going to get to a point where people are tired of them, and they're going to go on syndication, reruns, or whatever. But essentially, the cat is out of the bag. And I'm going to tell you something that you really don't want to hear, but it's actually the truth. This is the best time for you to get in the storage auction business. And the reason is your expectations are where they should be. I was talking with an old vet who recently decided to retire out the business, and he was still making money. But he wasn't making as much money as he used to. Mentally, it was just such a mind, it just messed with his mind so much. He was just like, he told me, he's like, last year I made $130,000, net profit. And I was like, sounds pretty good. He said, man, but That's the least amount of money I've ever made since I've been in business. You know, I'm used to making $200,000-300,000 a year. He's like, it was hard too. I worked my now pause. Hit pause. Dude made $130,000 profit in a recession from his business. But because he was used to it being so much easier, he's all disgruntled. Now, how many of you out there listening to the sound of my voice would be real happy making $130,000 last year, 2011? A lot of you, right? A lot of you, most of you. Whether you have to work your ass off or not, because many of you have jobs where you're working your ass off. Because this is something else that people don't think about. When you go to your job, a lot of people factor in the 8.5 hours. 8 hours at the job, hour, half hour for lunch, or 9 hours if there's an hour for lunch. I used to factor in from the moment that I got up to the moment that I got home, which makes it roughly a 10 to 12 hour day. That's a long freaking day, because if you weren't going to that job, you wouldn't be getting up at the time that you're getting and going in your car. You factor in your gas and everything. It's a lot to it. But back to what's happening with the business. A lot of these vets are getting out, and something I said, and if you've been with me since 2009, I said it back then, I'm going to say it today. Many of these people do not innovate. This is a guy who made $130,000 last year. I know for a fact he does not sell on Craigslist, and he does not sell on eBay. 26, 27-year vet does neither one of those things. Now, if he had listened to me, he would have made way more than $130,000 last year. But that's his mentality. He is locked into this box, and he refuses to come out. He would rather retire than to change. Let me say that again. He would rather retire than change. This is how, and that group of people, they're just going to go away. They're just going to go away. A lot of them, they've been in the business 20, 30 years. They're in their late 50s, early 60s. Time for them to retire, because very few of them are going to make that transition from the way the business was to the way the business will be going forward. Now for you, going back to what I said, this is the best time for you to be in the business. At some point, it's gonna level out, and it's gonna climb up. And for those who are in the business now, working it, and really what's super important here is building your customer base, because you hear all of this stuff about what goes on with storage auctions, but you never hear anything about developing the customer base. You never hear anything about marketing, advertising, or actually building a business. What you see on television is what I call a lot of one-off stuff. It's like, bam, you get this, you sell it, and you're done. That is not going to make you consistent income. And also, going back to the television shows, those aren't even business models. Those are TV business models. Good guy, bad guy, middle of the road guy, cheesecake, brandy. That's a formula, and it works for the television show. So if you can, just unscrew your head like a Marine, the jar heads, unscrew your head, tilt to the side, and just empty all that stuff on the floor, then put your head back on, and really think about this, because this is what's really going to happen if you become a storage auction buyer. You're going to go to an auction, you're going to buy some rooms, and also this whole thing about buying 1 or 2 rooms and doing really well, it's a fantasy. From jump, I was buying 10 to 15 rooms a month. I started off with U-Haul because, I had some other things going on in the week, so I couldn't really just do it completely full time, but I had more free time than the average person. And I go on that U-Haul trail and get 10, 15, 20 rooms. Why? Because U-Haul at the time gave you 5 days to clean out the room. So it gave me time to get the stuff, go through the stuff, actually put it in the sales channel, and start selling. You must take action. There's some of you, you're just not in a position to do this business. And it's not because you're not talented. It's not because your desired level isn't great enough. It's just you don't have the money, and you don't have any place to store this stuff. Until you solve those problems, and that's what's becomes preparing yourself for this business, it's going to be very hard. Now, here's a solution for those of you who are in that position. Start picking. This goes back to what I said about going around your house, finding stuff to sell, learning how to sell, building up your customer base. Picking is, and just to clarify, when you say picker, everyone automatically assumes collectibles, memorabilia, going around a bar and pulling. That is a part of picking, but picking is much broader than that. Picking could be your girlfriend's father just retired and they're thinking about having an estate sale, and you jump in like Superman. You just jump in there and say, look, I'll handle all that for you. Just give me a cut of the proceeds. You essentially pick that house. You're going to handle all the selling. You're going to actually make money, and you're going to give them money, and you're going to take a huge load off of them. That's actually taking an opportunity. And there are many of you who've been in that situation, but because you weren't really thinking, it's like, oh God, they got to have an estate sale. You didn't see the opportunity because you weren't in that frame of mind. Once you get into this business, everything is money. Everything is money. That stuff, like, I'll guarantee you, before these shows came on, before you start watching my videos, you just drove by these storage facilities every day and didn't think nothing of them. Now, you're like on high alert. It's like, oh, there's one. God, there's like 30 near my house. And they've been there for years, but you never paid attention. It's called an awakening. So once you start in this business, because you can take some of the techniques out of my book and apply them to estate sales, garage sales, flea markets. Because essentially, the core aspect of this business is finding something to sell and selling it. That's it. That's the core. That's the core. There's other stuff wrapped up into it, and people, right now, storage auctions are being, in my opinion, overly romanticized. It's like you're going on this great treasure hunt, which sometimes it is a treasure hunt, and sometimes there's really treasure. But that is not the typical deal. The typical deal is what I told you earlier about that 10 by 20 with regular stuff in there. You get it for $500, $600, $700, $800. You sell everything in it, and you actually yield $2,000 to $3,000 profit. That's a great unit. That's a great unit. People are going like, man, I spent $700 and I made $1,400, man. You made a profit. And also, let's really be real about this. Most of the people in this country are not rich. Why are you going to expect to find wonderful, wild, and great treasure in most of the units when most of the people in this country are not rich? Most of the people in this country are, make less than 50 grand a year. And just to give you the proper context, there's 320 million people. Just go ahead and throw in 25 million Mexicans. And out of that 320, 160 million people make less than 50 grand a year. Half. Crank it up to 80,000. 89% of those people make less than that. Maybe go ahead and say 90. 90% of those people. So that's kind of the thing. But by building your expectations, building this business, and having a plan. And I'm a big advocate of writing down your goals. Say today, which is January 17th, you're not ready, but you want to be ready. What's the first thing you do? You open up an eBay account. You open up an Amazon account. You sell what you can. You do what you can with what you have until you can do better. But you have a plan of progression. Like people that work out in the gym. For those of you who work out in the gym, those are really good. You see the guy who's been benching like 150 for the last 8 years. There's no plan of progression. It's just like, just toning. Actually, it's counterproductive because the body is used to that and is really doing nothing. You got to have a plan of progression. So just a quick, getting yourself prepared for the business. Number one, go around your house. Source out everything that you don't need, don't want, you can live without. Put in a room and just build. Number two, you talk to all of your friends, family. Hey, you got some stuff that you don't want. I'm looking at doing this new business opportunity, and I would really appreciate it if you just give me anything you don't want. Listen to what I said. You're not trying to buy it. You're not trying to do a split proceed. You're asking them straight up, I want stuff that you don't want. I'll take it off your hands. You're not trying to enter into this dual partnership, because one of the things is people are afraid to be successful. Because for some of you, what I just said, it's just like, whoa, that just sounds really unfair. If you, as a grown-ass person, goes up to another grown-ass person and says, look, I'll take what you don't want, and they give it to you, where's the unfairness? I'm looking for it. There is no unfairness. We're in this country, we're kind of taught that making money is inherently evil. There's just some weirdness with that, because if it's not like 100% fair, then somehow you've gotten over a person, or you've done something evil, and that's not the case. If you look them in the eye and say, look, tell them, don't say you're giving it to a charity. I never ever sold anyone that I was running a charity. I never opened up a 501c. I never did any of that stuff, because that wasn't my business. My business was for profit. And to me, okay, at that point, if you do something like that, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. But if you're honest and say, look, I want your stuff. Then you go around your place to get all the stuff. You go to your friends and family. And then after you do that and you get stuff, you call back to friends and family and say, hey, do you know anyone in your circle, at your job, in your church, that may have some stuff that they don't want? Okay, so 1, 2, you just found 3 sources of product that you can get for free. Is this stuff going to be glamorous? Probably not. But if you work all this stuff up and you do it for a month and you make $2,000, bam! You have now storage auction capital. Do you understand? That's what I'm saying. Because many people that come out are doing crazy stuff. They're quitting their jobs. They're pulling money out their 401k. Don't do that. You don't have to do that. I'm gonna implore you. Don't do it. You don't have to do that. Understand, this is a business that it's going to take you some time to learn, because there's so many different aspects of it that even if you had $2 million and you just jumped in, there's a good chance you can lose your ass, because money hides a lot of flaws. Many corporations go through that every year. It's like they have all this money, then bam, you go by and it's like, wow, they're closed. They had too much money. And too much money makes you overconfident, because you run your business as, from a cash basis, you're going to be a better business person and you're going to make better decisions. So that's kind of how you begin. That's how you begin. And once you get that money, then you go out to the auctions, because I've had to change up a few things in the information I've given people, because conditions have changed. I discovered this in my own life because I was a bottom feeder. I bought all the crappy units because that's all they would let me have. Then one day, selling on eBay, and I said, wow, I got $4,000. And I was out there with Snowball, Montclampet, and it was a great unit. I mean, you just look, just beautiful stuff was literally falling out their room. And, they just, other people, they just withdrew and they backed up. And I was like, and I was getting ready to back up, because I was thinking, my mind was like, wow, I got $4,000. I could get a ton load of shit units. Then I had to mentally slap myself. I was like, wait a minute. Take a chance. You want to get some of the better stuff. You got the money. Just go toe to toe with them. And we started bidding, and I get the unit for $2,200. And they're like, yeah, that was a good unit. That was a good unit. I was amazed. I actually made a lot of money off that room. And I almost didn't do it because I was scared. See, one of the reasons that many people are not successful in this business has nothing to do with intelligence, skill sets. It's all about that fear factor. It's like, I'm afraid to do something different. I had the money, I had the experience, and I almost pumped out. So understand, you gotta have that progression, because when I hit that point, the business just went. And the business was doing this anyway, and it just did this. Bam! Because I had that money, I sold all the furniture, and made $6,000, which gave me back my $2,000 plus, $4,000 profit, still had stuff to sell, and I immediately went out and bought more units with that money. And then it's like the business just was on steroids, because I was in a position. But at that point, I had been in the game probably 8-9 months, and I had bought a lot of units. And also, when you want to learn how to do something, repetition and practice makes a world of difference. Understand, 8 months in, I'm buying 15, 20 units a month, U-Haul, and sometimes I go out during the week and get units. I learned early on, due to my aggressive nature, that 1 year that I had bought a lot of units than a lot of folks who have been out there 6, 7 years. They were cherry picking. And some of these units were turkeys. Some of these units I lost my ass on. Not as bad as the worst unit I ever bought. You know, it's like I spend 50 and I make 60. I spend 50 and I make 40. And, you know, it was a lot of that stuff. Or I would spend 50 and make 300. And that made the difference in the business. So understand, you got to have a proper framework, infrastructure, and mental preparedness, and you're gonna need cash. You're not gonna get in this business if you only have $100. You're just gonna be with really super crappy units, and you're never gonna really progress. But the thing is, as I will get into a little later, that you're gonna need to learn how to source inventory from several different sources. Storage auctions were my main source of inventory because, bam, you get so much stuff, you get it really quick, and you move it, and you have a lot to work with. But I never, ever pulled back from estate sales. I had people that would go shop the flea market for me. There was a whole bunch of things that I don't really talk about that I'm going to talk about now. Sourcing inventory. One of the biggest problems being a storage auction hound is the mentality on sourcing inventory. When you get into storage auctions, they're very, very addictive. It's like you get to go through the stuff. Sometimes you pull out new stuff. Sometimes you get old stuff. And it's like, wow, every day's like Christmas. But one of the things that you have to understand is your business is a very, very hungry child. And like any other kid, you have to feed the baby on the regular. I will tell you, there were times back in the day, well, we'll call it a drought. You go out to auctions, you just go everywhere, and there's nothing out there that you really want to buy. I mean, you're looking at the rooms, you're taking a few chances. It's just not happening. But you've got this baby that's like, wah, I need some food. Because if you're not feeding your business food, thus inventory, your customers are going to go somewhere else to someone who is feeding their business. So I had to learn how to get inventory from other areas as well as storage auction units. I didn't put this in the video, I touched upon it, but I had a methodology. You know, this was the tree or the hierarchy of how I source products. Bam, number one, storage auctions, first and foremost source. Number two, Craigslist. That was the second source. And number three, estate sales, garage sales. Now, you already know how I got down with the storage auctions. With Craigslist, every day I would check out the free section. I would go back 3-4 weeks and say, hey, do you have this? Because on one Friday night, I went out all week, didn't get anything at the auctions. Nothing. But Saturday was a big day and I needed some stuff. So I left the auctions about 10, got on Craigslist, started calling people, and essentially went out and got a bedroom set, some nice chairs, etagers, all kinds of stuff, and spent more than I normally would spend in auctions. And I spent, $3,000 just going around picking up the stuff, buying it from people. Came back Saturday and had a $6,000 day. Did all the stuff that I bought off Craigslist sell? No, it did not. But it filled up the holes and the empty spaces in the store that drew people in. They came in and they bought other stuff. And eventually I did sell that stuff and made a profit. But the thing is, when you're in the selling business, you constantly have to have stuff. One of the biggest things I see people talking about is, I'm going to buy a unit, and then I'm going to sell everything, then I'm going to buy another unit. You are behind before you begin. You have to learn how to buy, and sell. You've got to have a certain fluidity with this. You have to be able to do all of it. You have to be buying and selling at the same time. This buy and sell, if you're low on money, and this is a tip for you, buy the biggest unit you can, the biggest, most packed unit that you can, then sell out of that. But you want to get to a situation, because you see it on the shows, they buy 1 or 2 units. I have bought 6. My best record in one day was 12 units in one day. Not a week, not a month, but one day. You have to buy to win. If you have nothing to sell, how can you make any money? So your balance sheet's going to look really janky at times because it's like, bam, you made 4,000, but shoot, you just spent that 4 on inventory. You know, it's going to be that wicked war. And really at the end of the month is when you're really going to say, like, okay, this is really good. You're going to know if you're going in the right direction. You're going to know really quickly because you're buying and selling the stuff. But at the end of the month, that's when you can do the final tally. I spent this, I sold this, and all this is black. Because it's just going. It used to drive my partner crazy because, like, you know, it's like money comes in, money goes out. But you have to feed the beast. And it's a very scary thing for most people. A lot of people are terrified because it's like, how do I make any money? I'll tell you something. As long as you have stuff, you have money. When you don't have stuff, you will not have any money. When I got out the business, it took me 6 months to sell everything because, you know, the warehouse for the most part was always full because you had certain sections where everything was already paid for and only the new stuff was, you know, a certain level of financial exposure because all the other stuff was pure and other profit. You have to understand, if you have a bunch of stuff to sell and say you want to take, you know, give you an example. Say you want to take a trip to Las Vegas and you don't want to put it on your credit card. You just go to your profit inventory and have a fire sale. Your profit inventory is stuff that you bought, had for a while, and the units have made you an incredible profit. So if you sold it for 2 cents, it's still black, it's still profit. And you just have a crazy sale, raise you 2, 3, 4, 5,000, go to Vegas, have yourself a good time, mentally relax, come back. And that's one of the things that this business gives you. It also gives you a way to hide money. You know, this is going to be on a gray area, but say, you know, you've got $50,000 tied up in your inventory, but you haven't really properly inventoried it, but you know mentally that's there. You've got money that really no one knows you have. That's, you know, that's another thing that's good about this business if you've got a crazy ex-wife. Just saying. Just saying. But that is the deal. You have to learn how to multitask because it's funny. One of the things that I like to do with my current business is to do one thing at a time, then move on to something else because I have that liberty because the demands are not as swift and frequently popping up as they're in the storage auction business because the demands of the storage auction business is you have to go to an auction. You have to answer your phone. You have to ship out stuff from eBay and Amazon. You have to get units cleaned out. There's a lot of stuff that's always on you. So you really just can't do one thing, then do something else. You've got to learn how to juggle it, and you're going to need assistance. And in sourcing the inventory, I'm going to say something that I never said in the video. I think a good partner, preferably your wife or your husband, or someone really close to you that you can trust, can handle what I call the soft side of the business. That's calling up the storage facilities. That's taking the phone calls for Craigslist. Because the thing is, they can call that number, then your wife, girlfriend can say, hey, you need to meet such and such here. He's coming, you know, and you got to kind of train them how to deal with Craigslist people. But essentially, that was another secret of mine. I did not do everything my freaking self. You can't. There are many of you out there who are buying the units, moving the units, selling the units. You are going to reach a point of diminishing returns very quickly because this business is too much for just one person. I understand you can't get someone to buy for you, but you can get someone to list your Craigslist items for you. You can get someone to list your eBay stuff for you. You can get someone to make your phone calls for you. Anything that you can trust someone to do that's not going to really be where they're touching money or really can cost you money. Now, that's debatable with eBay because eBay is a crazy place. But essentially, you want to build an organization that as many things happen without your input as possible. Because, you know, just buying, that was my role. My role was sourcing inventory, moving the inventory, and buying at storage auctions. That was in marketing. That was my role for the business, and my partner handled everything else. You've got to separate that stuff because I see a lot of stuff on YouTube. It's like me, my business, my YouTube channel. You have just created yourself a job that you can never really get from under the thumb of that job because it's all about you. You've got to bring other people in. whatever capacity that may be. You have to bring them in to grow your business. It is essential if you want to make six figures. And speaking of the numbers, you're brand new, and the big question is, how much did you make? Best year I was in the business, gross sales were $850,000. Best year ever. However, take home was over 300 grand. That was split between two people. Well over 300 grand. I ain't gonna get into detailed numbers because like I said, the crazy ex-wife. No, but it was almost $1 million in gross sales. With 90% of the stuff coming from storage auctions and other stuff coming from my other sources. Because once I got on my game, I was able to get 90% of the stuff that I needed from storage auctions. But there are those times when it's just not happening, but you still need stuff to sell, or your customers are going to be disappointed. Now, let's give you certain stages on what you can make. The typical storage auction setup, it's just you, your dreams, your ambition, and maybe a truck. If you are buying properly, and buying properly is not buying every unit that you see, but actually having a strategy, 20, 30 grand part-time, or let's just say full-time, because you may be at the auctions part-time, but once you add it all up with the shipping and meeting people, it'll be full-time. 20, 30 grand a year. Now, full-time, where you don't have a job, no other source of income, and you're really humping it, and you've also built yourself a business. You have help, and you have assistance. 60 to 100 grand today, with everything that's going on, it's not impossible. I want you to think about something, and going back to the shows, whenever you see they're interviewing someone, 9 times out of 10, they're by themselves. Or they may have a partner and they do all the work. You look at Storage Wars, Dave Hester has a crew, Brandy and Gerard has a crew. But Barry doesn't have a crew. Daryl Sheets, he doesn't have a crew, it's just him and his son. Understand, you can do those days where you're doing like really, really well and it's just two people, they're over. You've got to build yourself a business process. You have to. And it doesn't have to be very esoteric. It doesn't have to be exotic. It could be as much as your Aunt Bunny coming to your house to put your Craigslist ads up as you teach her. Then you have to think outside the box. You may have to get Aunt Bunny a used laptop to work out of her home and just like shoot her pictures, email her pictures. She puts them up. Because the thing is, what does it for you on Craigslist is consistency. By consistently posting ads and having a certain style, people recognize that you are a seller. And over a period of months, you'll start getting emails from people like, hey, I know you're always posting, do you have this, do you have that, do you have this, do you have that? And one person on YouTube told me he got called out because that's like, yeah, this guy gets his stuff from storage auctions. And that's not the problem that it used to be. It used to be like, oh, you're just going through people's stuff. Now it's like you're a freaking rock star. Oh, you buy storage auctions. I'm dating this girl and she's telling her, yeah, tell her what you used to do. Tell her the stories. I was like, what? Anyway, build your process, build your business, and just think. If you have teenage kids, they can help you with the business. And the thing is, depending on how you raised your kids, I'm going to say that. Yeah, I'm going to say that whether they're going to be good at it or not, because some people overindulge their children. Just my opinion. But it could be a neighbor. Think, who do you know that can help you with the business consistency? That's the thing. And no, you can't keep all the money. And another tip. Do not get day labor at investment prices. Someone had put this question to me. I'm thinking about having this person to put them on Craigslist ads or eBay stuff and they get a percentage. You do not pay investment rates for hourly work. No, it's like they put up ads, they do whatever, they get a fixed amount per hour or per number of items they put up. For me, I was paying people anywhere from $8 to $12 an hour. That's what you get for doing what you do. And for most people, they want that because it's like, okay, I work 6 hours, bam. That's $72. There's some they can sink their teeth into, but when they start talking about What do you mean? It's like, I'm going to get a percentage of my hard work and efforts, but I may not get a lot of money and I may work my ass off. Most folks don't want that. They say they want that. They only want it on the upside. But when you're self-employed and you're taking these risks, there's a lot of times that things are not going to be that wonderful, that clean, that great. And that's just the reality of this business. Just know that as you go forward with developing your business plans and setting everything up. But if you get nothing else out of this webinar, just know for you to reach a certain level of success, you have to build a business structure. And it's going to include other people. There's really no way around it. The storage auction business is way more than just buying and selling. One of the things that made me so successful was marketing. You have to market your business. I don't care if you only have 50 things to sell. You need to market your business. What is marketing your business? First of all, before you go inward, and that's the friends and the family, the relatives and all that stuff, you have to print up some business cards saying I sell stuff or such and such resale, whatever. Let people know what you do. And you have to raise your paw, and when the opportunity it pops itself up. This is marketing. You're in the grocery store, you're checking out, ladies on their phones, like, yeah, I'm looking for a bedroom set. Ding, opportunity. Whip out the card. Hey, I sell used furniture. Here's my card. That's the website. And you take one more step because she's on the phone, she's in the grocery store, she's busy. What is your contact information? You make sure you get their number and you call them. That's gotten me money in business. That little simple thing like that, because when you become self-employed, you're always working. Whether at the grocery store, when opportunity ding pops up at the craziest times. I was at an SEC football game and I was sitting here talking, and wasn't at home, was up in Tennessee. And this guy's talking about he needs some stuff, and I'm like, bam, there's my card. He said, what are you doing? I said, my card. I got what you need. He's like, we're going to watch this game because, Alabama's going to spank that ass, but I got what you need, and he just like, whatever. And I got his information, and a week later, I end up selling him some industrial stuff. This happened at a football game. So you got to be on. And if you're married and, because a lot of times it's like when you're out with the family and you got a wife and you do some stuff like that, they're looking at you kind of crazy. They're looking at like, oh, no. And you see it in these Lifetime movies, but it has been my personal experience to never have lost a woman for making too much money. They ain't never happened to me. It's never happened to any of my friends. I think, if you're a rude so-and-so, whatever. But if your wife or whatever, and especially in these times right now, if you're out there hustling, making money for the family, I don't think a really good woman, mate, husband is going to give you any flack, because the reality is you need to do what you need to do. But you have to be on point. Another way to market your business, you're going to have to embrace social media. And social media is more than Facebook, and it's more than Twitter. YouTube, the way that many of you found me, that's actually social media, believe it or not, because it brings people together and it creates a conversation. That's all social media is. You have to get into it. Twitter, Facebook, you're going to have to bring people in. And in the beginning, your numbers are going to look minuscule. It's like, you're going to have 30 people following you, 40. That's the beginning, but you have to constantly get out there and build that business, because over a period of a year, then it becomes very significant. You have to reach out. You have to let other business owners know what you do, because you can kind of pick where you want to be. Say you want to be a wholesaler. You just go around to all the little businesses in your town, the little thrift stores, and say, look, I'll give you this deal. Say you buy a unit for $500 and you can wholesale it, everything out for $15. You made $1,000, and not as much as you possibly would make selling it, but that may be your thing because you like to buy and then you sell it to them. You become a wholesaler. There's so many ways that you can do it, but any way you look at it, social media, marketing, developing a business, it is part of the game if you want to make decent and what I call livable income. Okay, we've dispelled some myths. This business is not like the television shows. You know that you've got to put some heart and effort into it. And also, to add on to the sourcing, some of these things you can start to do now. But what I want you to do, and this is something I did when I first got into business, is I sat down and I wrote some goals for myself. Some were very simple, some were very complex, and one was to make $500,000 a year in the storage auction business. I just wrote it down. It was a long, long time ago. Actually exceeded that. What I'm going to tell you about the mental aspects, and if you watch the video channel, because a lot of people don't really get into the mental aspects, because a lot of folks just want to like get in, get their information, get out and start doing stuff. And to me, many of those folks are not going to be successful because there's a certain paying of dues that you just can't get around. But people kind of want microwave success. One of the reasons that I was able to be really successful in the storage auction business was because I had a different mentality. It is huge in anything that you do if you want to be successful. You cannot jump into the storage auction game going, there's the crowds, the television shows, I can't win. If you leave your house with that mentality, chances are pretty good that you will not win. You have to make a decision to win. And understand, winning isn't going out and getting a great unit the first time you go out. Winning is going out and after you bought those suck ass units that you continue to go out until you win. See, winning isn't about bam, I won. It is the process. It's like a war with many battles. You know, so you lose some, but ultimately if you win more battles than you lose, you win the war. That's how it goes. And part of having the proper mindset is knowing what you're dealing with. This whole thing, like, I don't watch Storage Wars nor Auction Hunters because I just don't. It doesn't interest me. I watch it on DVR because right now I had 51 the other day, and now I'm down to 26. And I just watch it because as being part of this storage auction business, I need to know what's going on. That's the only reason I watch it, because I've actually had better days just going out there and not necessarily getting something that was super extraordinary, but just getting something that was super neat. So the thing is, I'm going to say, don't watch the shows. It's kind of like if you were in the military, then you watch a war movie and you're going, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Or, you know, when I was in the used to work in the emergency room, then I started watching ER. That's wrong. That I mean, that's the kind of feeling. And when I watch Storage Wars, it's like, that's wrong, that's not real. It's like, sometimes it's exciting, but for the most part, no. I just have better stuff to do. So I'm going to say, don't watch the shows. It will help you maintain the proper mindset, because all you're going to do is get pissed off for the most part. Because I can tell you, I have gone out for a month buying units every week, maybe 25, 35 units at the end of the month, and not one of those units contained the wow factor. But I made a lot of money. You know, the wow factor for me was buying a unit for $500 and selling one item out of that unit for $750. That was the wow factor for me. And it wasn't an antique or collectibles. Recently, I did a series on collectibles, memorabilia, and antiques. Okay, I want you to understand something from someone who bought damn near probably over 1,300 units, because I lost track and I lost count at one point. I bought well over 1,000 units, and maybe 10% had substantial antique collectible memorabilia type stuff, and of that, most of it was very difficult to sell. Understand, do not get caught up in that trap. It is a trap, and it's a very, very unprofitable trap, because the thing is, that market has been exploded and oversaturated since like 2000. When eBay came on the scene and other online portals, it totally changed that market. I mean, if you get something and you say you like baseball cards and you buy a unit and there's baseball cards, hey, it's a great day. You get something that you like. But buying that stuff and hoping to make a serious profit, it has to be so rare, it has to be so perfect, and it has to be the right year, the right author, the right make. There's so much that goes into it that it is, to me, not worth predicating your business on that stuff. If you get it and you can make money, great. It's an add-on. But that should not be the spear of your business. And for many people, that is the spear of their business. You've got all these people jumped in, just piled on into collectibles and antiques, and they're like, I got to get. You would be better off buying 10 units of contemporary furniture, motorcycle parts, automobile parts. If you bought a unit with spark plugs, it would be better than getting antiques or collectibles or memorabilia. I'm telling you, I've done that stuff. Some of my most profitable units have been the most oddball things. This isn't to say if you get that stuff, it's not going to make you money. It's just readjust your expectations and think like this. My goal is to buy stuff at a price that I can resell it and make a lot of money. You would think that's everyone's goal, right? It's not. It's not even close. There are many people who self-identify as treasure hunters and collectors. Nothing wrong with that. But if your goal is to make money and you've mentally identified yourself as a collector or a person that likes the finer stuff, you're going to be leaving money on the table because your mind is not in the right area. Understand, I had a store, 4,000 square feet. Everything in those 4,000 square feet, now it was really 10, but in the 4,000 square feet, everything was $1. That was your towels, your pots and pans, ironing boards, irons, waste baskets, trash cans. And there was many things in there. I could have gotten 5, 6, maybe $10 for it, but it would have required hiring someone to go through and pull out all the good stuff, and it would have required me spending a lot of money to throw stuff away. And that's where, I come with from rooter to the tutor and hog theory. We sold everything. And by the virtue of it being so cheap, people would come in. And they wouldn't buy one item. They'd buy 10. They would buy 20. They would buy 30. Because it was good stuff. The price was right. And this is where I'm talking about you can develop what I call predictable income. Every month, I knew I was going to get towels, pots, and pans. I knew I was going to get that stuff. Then in another section, that's where the furniture was. And then the last section, also the smallest section, was the super nice stuff, the really pristine stuff, the very expensive stuff. And I put top dollar on it and sit on it. Why? Because the 4,000 square foot section was making money every day. Bam. The second section was also making money. So I wasn't so pressed about selling that stuff. This is what the average storage auction person does. They take their best of their best, sell it real quick to get their money back, and then they're like, damn, I got all this crap and I can't really make a lot of money on it. I've seen it. I've seen it so many times. So don't let that be you. Understand, you have a choice in this. By taking your time and building your business and building your partnerships, you can make a lot of money even today. But it's going to take you some time to build up your business. Like for those of you who were like looking for some secret key, like, you push button X and then all of a sudden you get 10 grand. I'm sorry. This is not this. This is for people who are willing to put forth the effort to build a business over a period of time, and you will see some yields. Because one of the things is once you set this up, other things kind of fall into your lap. Once you get the truck, once you get the warehouse, that opens up other opportunities for you to make money. At one point, one of my trucks, I was leasing to a moving company when I didn't need it, because this is how the moving company business goes from like May to October, balls to the wall. The summer is a slow season for sales. So, bam, you go ahead and you rent that truck and you pay me per use. Because I gave him two choices. Like you could rent it per the month or you could pay me for use. And he's like, oh, I don't want to be locked up in anything. But ultimately, the first price that I offered him would have been much cheaper. But since he had to come and get it and went to go through this stuff, I made 4 times as much than if he had just rented it every month. Because I was only charging him maybe $150 more than it was costing me per month just to cover any incidentals. Because to me, he was paying my bill, yet I still had access to the truck when I needed it during the heavy months. Win-win. But that's the thing. It opens up so many avenues, because one of the things is, like I said in many videos, storage auctions have changed my life. And part of that is opened up these new avenues, friendships, business partnerships. All this stuff came from storage auctions. I'm not just saying go out there and fight with the people and beat your head up against the wall. I'm saying be smarter than the average bear. You know what you're dealing with. You're going to go out there, there's going to be crowds, there's going to be kids, there's going to be people, and 90% of these people are not serious. Let me say that again. 90% of these people are not serious, and they buy 1 or 2 bad units, they're out. It's supposed to be easy, Bullwinkle. It's supposed to be easy. I mean, that's how it went for Daryl and Brandy and Gerard and Dave and Tom and whatever Tom and Alan and Tom. A ton, that's his name. And that's the reality. It's not like that. Very few units I bought for $200-300 and made 15-20 grand. Very few. It happened on a few, but for the most part, that's not going to happen. What's going to happen is you get a unit and you'll probably make 3 to 4 times what you paid, which is great, because if you do that 10 times a month on a $300 to $500 unit, do the math. You know, and this is real money that you can spend. I'm not going to make these promises to you that you're going to become rich. And I've had a few people who've done very well after taking my webinar and my courses and stuff. And, you know, they hit the 6-figure mark long before I did. I think if I had someone like me, or I had my book when I started, I would have probably skipped a certain stage and just went straight into the bigger units from jump. But I was scared because I didn't know what to expect, because, you know, that's intimidating. You're at the door and you see all that stuff, and the first thing that comes to your mind, I have to move all that. No, you don't have to move all that. You have to manage the movement of all that. And when I learned that one little thing, I started making a lot of money. That's your role. Your role is to manage the process. Your role is to put this thing together. What many people want to do, and I was guilty of this, is they insert themselves into the circle, and the circle stays very, very small. And as long as that circle stays very, very small, your money's going to be very limited. You're going to have to scale up to make decent money. Here's another hint for you. Most people are not going to do it. Most people are not going to make that type of commitment nor effort. Just not. So when you think in terms of competition, if you're at that base level, you just want to buy 1 or 2 units a month, yeah, that field is that wide and it's yay deep and there's a lot of people. But if you're like, I'm going to buy 15-20 units a month, I'm going to create a sales organization, I'm going to serve a lot of people, the field gets much smaller. And also, because you have a sales organization and a business structure, say you don't go to auctions for a week, there's other places you can get stuff to sell. And it's like, hey, you know, you can go to auctions 2 weeks out the month, then you can do other stuff. It's just a matter of putting it together. And that's your role. So if you want to be successful, don't look at yourself as just the guy that buys stuff and moves stuff. Look at yourself as the architect of your own business. You're the mastermind. You're putting that stuff together and you're managing it. Because you can manage a lot from your cell phone. You can manage a lot and be on vacation. But when you're doing everything, very, very limited. And I did that for a few years. Was doing everything, moving everything. Didn't have a life. And then I started to manage. And that's when the money just started like coming in. So that's pretty much the gist of this. You know, that's your introduction to the storage auction business. I hope you get a lot out of it. And with me being a capitalist, this is the offer. I am going to put a link here It'll be here, and I'll just let it run for a few minutes, and then I'll also send it to you. For 24 hours, only 24 hours, I'm going to offer you the latest edition of my book for $39.99. Includes shipping and everything. And starting next Tuesday, we're going to do a very technical, almost like going to science class, review of the book. Starts next Tuesday. You have to buy the book to get a part of that webinar, which will be I'm thinking it's going to be 5 or 6 weeks, because it's going to be once a week, and there'll be a different kind of module. And this one's going to be very, very structured. It's going to be, this is what's the first thing you do. This is the second thing you do. And this is the third. It's going to be very, essentially, buy the book. So you get all of that for $39.95. You get the book, and you get access to the webinar, if you so choose. And if you wait past the 24 hours, am I going to kick you to the curb? No, but you won't get it for $39.95. I'm just letting you know. So this link is only good from now until 10 p.m. tomorrow night. All right, this is Glendon. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. If you have any questions, you're going to have to hold on to them until the next webinar. So if you got any questions, you're going to have to join to put forth. And also, there's an email right here that you can send those questions, which I will answer at the beginning of the next webinar. All right, this is Glendon. Happy New Year. Thanks for coming out. I hope you got something out of this.